My name is Ava Carter, and there are only two people in this world who know what really happened the night my sister showed up at my door bruised, shaking, and desperate. One of them is me. The other, well, he's locked in a federal prison now. But he wasn't always, and he never imagined that the two sisters he thought he could control would end up being the ones who destroyed his comfortable little life. This story starts on a Thursday night, one of those nights where everything feels routine. I had just come home from my shift at the cafe I manage in Midtown Atlanta. I was exhausted, I had my hair in a messy bun, and all I wanted was to microwave leftovers and watch something brainless until I fell asleep. But life doesn't warn you before it changes. I'd barely set my bag down when I heard the knocking. Not polite knocking, not neighborly knocking. This was frantic, desperate, knocking that felt like a heartbeat. I froze, because instinct told me something was wrong. Real wrong. When I opened the door, I saw her. My twin sister, Lena. Her eyes were red. Her hair was a mess. And there, just beneath her sunglasses, I could see the edge of a bruise blooming along her cheekbone. "Ava," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Please, please don't freak out." I didn't react. I didn't gasp or start yelling. Because when your twin shows up looking like that, something ancient in your body takes over. Something older than anger. Something older than fear. I stepped aside, silently, and let her in. She stumbled into my living room like she'd been holding her breath for hours. She took her sunglasses off, and that's when I saw the full bruise. Purple. Ugly. The kind of bruise that doesn't come from walking into a cabinet door. My voice came out steady. Too steady. "Did he do that?" She didn't even answer. Her silence was answer enough. I felt the room tilt. Because I knew. I always knew something was wrong. Her husband, Mark, was the kind of man people described as charming. He had that salesman smile. White teeth, confident handshake, always making eye contact with just a bit too much intention. But the first time I met him, I noticed the way he watched Lena. Not lovingly, not protectively, possessively, like she was a car he owned and polished but never really respected. For years, I tried to convince myself that I was being dramatic. Lots of men are controlling. Lots of women don't want their sisters meddling in their marriages. Maybe I was projecting. But seeing Lena's face that night erased every doubt. She finally broke down crying, a full-body cry, the kind that shakes the person doing it and everyone around them. She collapsed on my couch, clutching one of my pillows like it was a life raft. I sat beside her, waiting. After 10 long minutes, she managed to speak. "He didn't mean to," she whispered. My jaw clenched. I wanted to scream, but this moment wasn't about my anger. It was about her pain. "Tell me," I said gently, and she did. Little by little, the truth came out. For the last year, Mark had been chipping away at her. Not with fists at first, but with words. "You're crazy. You're remembering wrong. Why are you acting like this? Nobody else would love you. I'm the best thing that ever happened to you." He controlled her money, her phone, who she could see, what she wore. Every classic sign of abuse that therapists warn you about. She'd lived through all of them. And then last night, he snapped because she spent too long at Target. That bruise came from a man who didn't lose control. He exercised it. I listened until she finished. Then I asked the question I already knew the answer to. "Lena, are you ready to leave him?" She shook her head, so hard her hair swung. "He'll find me. He always finds me. And I am scared of what he'll do if he finds out I told you." Tears streamed down her face. "He keeps saying he can ruin me, that nobody would believe me over him. He was a tech project manager with clean suits, a good salary, a good husband reputation. He volunteered at charity dinners. He acted polite. He shook hands with cops. Everyone liked him. Classic abuser camouflage." She grabbed my wrist with both hands. "Ava, you can't call anyone," she whispered. "Please. He'll know." I took a long breath. "Okay," I said finally. "Then I'll handle it." Her eyes widened. "Ava, no. You don't understand. He's not like people you've dealt with." "And he's never dealt with me," I said. "Because here's the thing about twins. We may not always get along. We may grow up different, live different lives, date different people, believe different things. But when you hurt one of us, you pick a fight with both of us." I stayed calm that night. I let her shower, sleep in my bed, breathe without fear for the first time in months. But I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with the lights off, staring into the dark, thinking. And that's when the idea hit me. The kind of idea you're not supposed to have. The kind of idea that starts as a whisper. The kind of idea that grows bigger the longer you sit with your rage. We were identical. Same face. Same voice, if I pitched mine a little higher. Same walk. Same silhouette in dim lighting. If I put on her wedding ring, if I wore her clothes, if I brushed my hair the way she did, I could pass as Lena, at least long enough to do what she couldn't, to fight back. I turned it over in my head, testing the idea for weak spots. There were risks, big ones, but the bigger risk, the one I refused to accept, was sending my sister back to a man who might kill her next time. So around 4 a.m., I tiptoed into my bedroom. I sat on the floor beside the bed, gently touched her hair, and whispered, "Lena, I'm going to fix this." She didn't wake up, but I think a piece of her heard me. The next morning, she woke up puffy-eyed and exhausted. She looked smaller somehow, like the fear had shrunk her spirit. She sat at my kitchen counter with a mug of tea cupped in both hands. I had to approach the subject carefully. "Lena," I said, "you can't go back there." "I know," she whispered, "but he'll come looking, and the police can't do anything unless—" I cut her off. "There's another option." She frowned. "What option?" I hesitated only for a second. "We switch places." She stared at me like she didn't understand, like the meaning of the words couldn't even register. "You what?" "You stay here. You stay safe, and I go to your house instead." I leaned closer. "I pretend to be you." She shook her head immediately. "No, Ava, that's insane. He's dangerous. That's why I have to deal with him, not you. You can't fix this by confronting him." "I'm not confronting him," I said softly. "I'm dismantling him." She froze. I explained the plan. I would take her place. I would act like her. I would stay just long enough to gather evidence, recordings, documents, financial threats, anything he'd tried to hide. Then I'd provoke him, make him slip, make him show the world what he really was. Lena kept shaking her head as I talked. "No, Ava, please. I can't lose you. I can't." "You won't," I said. "Mark won't lay a hand on me." "You don't know that." "Yes," I said with absolute certainty, "I do. Because, unlike Lena, I don't break easy. I don't freeze when confronted. And I don't fear men like Mark. Where Lena was soft, trusting, and gentle, I was sharp, blunt, dangerous when necessary. We were two halves of a whole, but I was the half that bites back." She cried again. We argued. She begged me not to do it. But by the afternoon, after hours of talking, after realizing she had no other option, she agreed, but only because I promised her one thing. "I'm not going in to fight him," I told her gently. "I'm going in to end him." We started practicing immediately. I studied her voice patterns, the little nervous laugh she always had at the end of sentences, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear. She showed me how she held her purse, which side she usually slept on, how she tied her shoes, how she answered texts. We practiced for 4 hours. I taped her voice. She corrected my posture. We swapped clothes, jewelry, everything. By evening, I looked like her reflection. "Are you sure?" she whispered as she helped me zip her jacket. "No," I answered honestly, "but I'm doing it anyway." I grabbed her car keys. She grabbed my hands. "Ava, he will try to break you." "He can try." I squeezed her hands once, reassuring, grounding. Then I walked out of my apartment wearing her wedding ring. As I slid into her car, I felt my heartbeat shift. Not fear, Focus. I drove towards her house, his house, the place where he had terrorized her for months. But tonight, the woman walking through that front door wasn't the one he thought he owned. Tonight, he was about to learn exactly what happens when you hurt my twin. I pulled into my driveway just before sunset. Lena's neighborhood was one of those quiet American suburbs where nothing looked wrong from the outside. Freshly mowed lawns, kids' bikes left on front porches, the occasional dog barking behind a fence. The type of place where people wave good morning while secretly drowning in their own private misery. Perfect camouflage for men like Mark. I sat in the car a moment, gripping the steering wheel, letting the silence settle over me. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't afraid. I felt something colder, sharper, like my entire body was gearing up for a long-delayed fight. I looked up at the house, 2 stories, white siding, the American flag hanging on the porch, a wreath Lena bought but never liked. All of it suddenly felt fake, like a movie set built to convince the world a happy couple lived inside. I stepped out of the car, my movements deliberate. I slowed down, softened my expression, tilted my chin, copying the exact way Lena walked when she didn't want to upset him. I even practiced her small, apologetic smile in the car mirror. I needed to be believable. For this to work, I needed to be her, at least until it was too late for him to undo anything. I opened the door with her key. My chest tightened as I stepped into the house. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and the faintest hint of his cologne. Expensive, sterile, a scent that tried too hard. I listened. Nothing. He wasn't downstairs. I heard water running upstairs, a shower. Perfect. I put down the keys exactly where she always left them. I took off my shoes the way she did. I avoided the creaky floorboard near the stairs. I moved through the house quietly, absorbing everything. The living room was spotless, too spotless, like a hotel room prepared for inspection. The kitchen counters had no crumbs, no mugs, not a single sign of life. The place didn't feel lived in, it felt controlled. I walked through each room, observing what he had curated, what he expected Lena to maintain. Everything screamed perfection, matching throw pillows, a single framed wedding photo placed on a pedestal table, like some twisted trophy. Then I saw something that made anger rise in my throat. A printed list taped on the inside of a cabinet door. TODO list for Lena. 6 a.m. breakfast, oatmeal or eggs. Iron shirts. No coffee after 2 p.m. makes you moody. Make bed hospital tight. No snacks after dinner. No social media on weekdays. Be home before 6 p.m. This wasn't a marriage. This was a prison schedule. I took a picture of the list with Lena's phone. After all, every detail was evidence. Suddenly, the water upstairs shut off. Time to begin. I walked to the bottom of the stairs just as he stepped out of the bedroom. He was shirtless, towel around his waist, phone in hand. He stopped when he saw me. His eyes narrowed. Something flickered in them, suspicion. But then he smiled, that fake, charming smile that made strangers assume he was a good guy. "There she is," he said, walking down a few steps. "You're home late." I forced myself to look down at my hands, playing the part. "Sorry," I said, using Lena's softer tone. "Traffic." He made a disapproving noise. "Text me next time. You know I worry." Worry. Right. Control disguised as concern. Classic. He came down the final steps and kissed my cheek. I stiffened for a split second before remembering. Lena would soften, lean in slightly, try to please him. So I forced myself to relax. His hands lingered on my waist longer than they should have. Too tight. "You seem different," he said. I shrugged lightly. "Just tired." He paused again, his gaze sharp. He was studying me. I turned away first. Lena always avoided his eyes when nervous. And just like that, suspicion faded. He followed me into the kitchen. "How was your day?" he asked. "Fine." "You're quiet." "Just tired." He sighed, irritated. "Lena, You know how I feel when you close off like this. I opened the fridge to avoid looking at him. Sorry. But inside, I wasn't sorry. I was cataloging everything. His tone, his triggers, his expectations, all potential weapons. He leaned on the counter watching me. You look different, he said again. Something about you. I turned around slowly. What do you mean? He frowned, confused by his own instincts. I don't know. Just something off. I stepped closer, close enough that he could see nothing was off at all. Just close enough to challenge his instinct without him realizing. He blinked, and his confusion melted into smugness, like he'd convinced himself he was wrong. Never mind, he said. Come here. He pulled me toward him. I let him, barely. But inside, I was memorizing the weight of his grip, the little ways he tried to assert dominance. Every moment with him was intel. We're going to dinner tomorrow, he announced. My boss invited us. Don't wear that dress you wore last time. It made you look tired. A flicker of rage shot through me, but I kept my expression empty. Okay. He nodded, satisfied that he'd corrected me. Then he went to his office to finish some work. As soon as the door closed, I exhaled. He didn't know it yet, but the version of Lena he thought he owned was gone, and I was going to make him realize it in the most painful way possible. Over the next 3 hours, I walked around the house slowly, methodically. I found Lena's old phone hidden in a drawer, smashed screen, turned off. She told me once that she lost it. No, he destroyed it. I found a folder labeled budget on his office computer that wasn't a budget at all. It was a list of Lena's spending, down to the dollar. Things like Starbucks $6 highlighted in red. I took photos of everything, every restrictive rule, every controlling behavior, every moment of his temper rising over nothing. I recorded conversations with a tiny mic Lena had bought for self-defense, but never used. By midnight, I had hours of proof, but I needed more. I needed something big, something undeniable, something that would destroy not just his marriage, but his reputation, his job, his foundation. I didn't just want him out of Lena's life. I wanted to bring down everything he built on her fear. The next morning, I woke early, earlier than he expected. I made breakfast wrong on purpose. Lena made his eggs soft. I made them scrambled. He looked at the plate like I'd slapped him. What's this? Breakfast. I told you I like them soft. I forgot. His jaw twitched. He didn't explode. Not yet. But I saw the irritation simmering just beneath the surface. Good. I needed him unstable. While he showered, I put his expensive electric toothbrush in the trash. I loosened the screws on his office chair, so it wobbled. I turned off the setting on his phone that synced all his calendars. Small things, annoying things, things he'd blame on Lena. When he came downstairs, he snapped. What is wrong with you lately? I blinked. Nothing. You're being careless. I'm doing my best. Your best isn't good enough. There it was. The first crack. I leaned casually against the counter. I think it is. He looked stunned. What did you say? I said, I think it's good enough. He stared, confused. Lena never talked back, not even mildly. Are you being sarcastic? He asked. No, just honest. His eyes hardened. He stepped closer. Don't get smart with me, Lena. I tilted my head. Why not? For a moment, absolute silence. Then he laughed, a slow, unsettling laugh. You're funny today, he said, tapping my chin like I was a pet. But don't push me. Not a warning. A promise. I gave him a sweet smile, Lena's smile. Wouldn't dream of it. Inside, I was already 10 steps ahead. Later that afternoon, I met my neighbor, a woman named Joanna. Late 30s, yoga pants, messy bun, the look of someone permanently carrying stress. She waved at me from her driveway. Lena, hey, haven't seen you in forever. I waved back, playing friendly. Yeah, been busy. She came over quietly and lowered her voice. Everything okay? She looked concerned. Not curious, concerned. Yes, I said quickly. She didn't buy it. If you ever need anything, she whispered, my door's open. I froze. A beat too long. Her eyes softened with something that made my stomach twist. Recognition. She'd seen things. Heard things. She knew. Thank you, I whispered. Her eyes flicked to the house. You married a man who carries two faces, she murmured. Just remember, the rest of us only see one. That sentence told me everything. We weren't the only people he fooled, but we also weren't the only people he scared. I smiled gratefully and went back inside. As soon as I stepped through the door, Mark walked into the hallway. Who were you talking to? Joanna. What did she say? Just hello. He stared at me like a lie detector. I met his eyes, something Lena rarely did. His brow tightened. He didn't like that. Stay away from her, he said sharply. Why? His nostrils flared. Because I said so. I shrugged casually. Okay. He blinked. He wasn't sure what to do with this new, slightly rebellious version of Lena. He didn't realize it yet, but he wasn't in control. That night, he came home irritated from work. He tossed his keys too hard on the counter. He opened the fridge and complained about dinner. He didn't like the shirt I washed. He didn't like the scent of the candle I lit. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You're lucky I put up with you. I slowly closed the dishwasher. Lucky. I repeated softly. Yes, lucky, he snapped. Most men wouldn't tolerate your attitude. But I do. I take care of you and you act like... Like what? He inhaled sharply, the way abusers do when they realize they're one sentence away from saying something that exposes them completely. His voice dropped. Don't make me raise my voice. I took a step closer. Then don't give me a reason. He stared at me like I'd slapped him with my words. Lena, he said slowly, you're acting strange. I tilted my head, smiling sweetly. Maybe I'm just tired. He didn't buy it. Something in his eyes darkened, confusion turning into suspicion. But before he could say anything, his phone buzzed. Work. He stormed off to answer it. As soon as the office door closed, I whispered, That's right. Keep unraveling. Because this was just the beginning. I hadn't even started destroying him yet. The next day was when everything truly began. Because up until now, I'd only pushed him in tiny ways, mismatched breakfast, small attitude shifts, subtle resistance. Nothing big enough to alert him, but enough to unsettle him, enough to loosen the threads. But today was about pulling them. Mark spent the entire drive lecturing me on how to behave. Don't talk too much. Don't order anything messy. Laugh at the jokes, even if they're stupid. Don't bring up politics. Don't bring up your sister. And for God's sake, don't slouch. I listened quietly, not because I cared, but because recording his condescending tone was valuable. Every word was a little piece of evidence. He wore his nicest suit. He sprayed expensive cologne. He practiced his smile in the car mirror. Literally practiced it like an actor preparing for a role. Everything about him was performance, and I was about to ruin his show. We arrived at a stylish restaurant downtown. White tablecloths, dim lighting, the kind of place where you pay $60 for a salad and $40 for parking. His boss, Daniel, was already there, along with Daniel's wife, Rebecca. Now, based on what Lena told me, Rebecca didn't like Mark. She'd always found him off. I could use that. We sat. Small talk started. Mark charmed, complimented, bragged, everything he was good at. I played quiet, polite, pleasant. But I watched him the way a hunter watches prey, carefully, patiently, waiting for the moment to strike. When the waiter came, Mark ordered for me without even glancing at me. She'll have the trout, he said. I waited 2 seconds. Then I smiled gently at the waiter. I'll have the chicken instead, please. The table went silent. Mark turned his head slowly toward me. "Lena," he said softly, very softly, the kind of softness that had violence beneath it, "you don't like chicken." I kept smiling. "I do tonight." He froze, strangled. I had deviated from script. Daniel blinked, pleasantly oblivious. But Rebecca watched him closely. She noticed the stiffness in his shoulders. She noticed the way he clenched his jaw. She noticed the crack in his persona. I could already see distrust blooming in her eyes. Perfect. Halfway through dinner, I leaned over to Rebecca and complimented her earrings. "They're gorgeous," I said. "Did Daniel pick them out?" "Oh God, no," she laughed. "He doesn't even notice what I wear." We all laughed politely, except Mark. He didn't like that I'd spoken naturally, comfortably, not small, not quiet, not controlled. He put his hand on my thigh under the table. A warning. I removed it. Gently, discreetly, but I removed it. His eyes snapped to mine. I met his gaze calmly. Rebecca noticed. Mark's mask cracked again. He spent the rest of dinner trying to reassert dominance, interrupting me, answering questions directed at me, squeezing my knee too hard under the table. I made sure to win every tiny battle he picked. By the end of the meal, he was simmering, but around other people he couldn't explode. Not yet. When we got home, he didn't speak at first. He tossed his keys. He paced. He stewed. Then what the hell was that? I played dumb. What? You contradicted me. At dinner. Twice. I shrugged. I ordered what I wanted. You don't do that. I do now. His face flushed with disbelief. You embarrassed me. I don't think anyone cared. He stepped closer. Are you trying to make me angry? I kept my breathing slow, controlled, but my voice went cold. No, I'm trying to make myself heard. He froze. The statement stunned him. Lena never spoke like that. Ever. You're not yourself lately. I think I'm finally becoming myself. His mouth opened, ready to shout, but I stepped around him and walked toward the stairs. He hated being dismissed. Lena, he barked, I'm talking to you. I paused at the steps, turned my head slightly, and I heard you. Then I walked upstairs, leaving him alone with his rage. That moment ruffled something deep inside him, the first real blow to his illusion of control. But I needed more, much more. Tonight, I crossed a small line. Tomorrow, I would cross a bigger one. When I went into my bedroom, I began searching through drawers Lena was too scared to open. I looked for receipts, letters, hidden items, anything useful, and then I found it, a locked metal box under the bed. I picked it up and studied the latch. Cheap lock, cheap secrets. I grabbed a bobby pin from Lena's vanity. It took me 10 seconds to open it. Inside were documents, stacks of them, bank statements, weird money transfers, names I didn't recognize, some company in Arizona, a second checking account, and something truly interesting, files labeled with numbers, not names. Lots of transactions under $10,000, small enough to avoid IRS reports. My eyebrows lifted. Oh, Mark, what have you been up to? But the best thing inside? A small flash drive, unlabeled, not hidden, merely concealed. I smiled. Sometimes guilty men hid their crimes so close to their daily lives that they assumed nobody would look. I pocketed the flash drive and closed the box. Tomorrow, I'd take it somewhere he couldn't track. At around midnight, he came into the bedroom. I pretended to be half asleep. He turned on the lamp, ripping the soft quiet out of the room. We need to talk, he said. I opened one eye. Can it wait? No, I sat up slowly. He stood over me, like a judge. What's going on with you? I blinked. Nothing. Don't lie to me, he snapped. He moved closer. Too close. I watched him carefully, his posture, his breathing, the twitch in his right hand. He wanted a reason to explode. But not yet. Not tonight. So I stayed calm. You're imagining things, I said softly. He grabbed my chin. Hard. His fingers dug into my jaw as he forced my face up. Don't treat me like I'm stupid. I met his eyes unflinching. Inside fire, outside calm. You're hurting me, I whispered. He loosened his grip immediately. Abusers hate seeing themselves reflected as monsters, even when they are. He stuttered. I didn't grab you hard. You're being dramatic. I touched my jaw. It ached. Am I? His face reddened. You're pushing me, he warned. No, I said slowly. I'm just not scared of you. His whole body jerked slightly, like someone had pulled a string inside him too tightly. What did you just say? I looked him dead in the eyes. I'm not scared of you. He stepped back, stunned, because that sentence was the first real threat he'd ever heard from Lena's voice. For a moment, he looked like he didn't recognize me, like the woman he'd controlled and belittled and bruised was suddenly someone else entirely. Good. Let that fear settle, because fear was only the beginning. I lay back down. He stood there trembling with rage, breathing hard, trying to decide whether to yell, threaten, lash out, accuse, but nothing came out. He was off balance. I had taken his script and burned it. Good night, I said softly. He exhaled through his nose, spun on his heel, and stormed out of the room. The door slammed. I waited 2 minutes. Then I smiled. Phase 1 complete. He left early for work without saying a word. He didn't kiss me goodbye. Didn't leave a note. He was thinking. Overthinking. Obsessing. Predictable. I waited exactly 5 minutes after he left before moving. I changed clothes, grabbed my bag, and left the house, Lena's car keys in hand. I drove straight to my apartment. When Lena saw me walk in, her shoulders dropped with relief. Oh, thank God, she whispered. I was so scared you wouldn't come back today. I hugged her tight. I'm okay, but he's starting to crack. She pulled back, tears forming. Ava, I don't know how you're doing this. Because you couldn't, and because he deserves it. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Then I showed her the flash drive. Lena's eyes widened. What's that? His real secrets, I said, and we're going to find out exactly what he's been hiding. We plugged it into my laptop. Hundreds of files loaded. Names, charts, transaction records, encrypted notes, work emails sent from private, unregistered accounts. Lena covered her mouth. What is all this? Something illegal, I said. Something big. But before I could dig deeper, my phone buzzed. Her phone. A message from Mark. Where are you? Another. You didn't pack me lunch. Answer me. A third. You're testing me. I don't like it. Lena flinched. I typed back at the store. Needed air. Be home later. He replied instantly. Hurry. I put her phone down. Lena looked at me fearfully. Ava, please be careful. Oh, I will, I said softly, because it's time to take this to the next level. What I had now wasn't just proof of abuse. It was ammunition. Big, dangerous ammunition. He wasn't just a controlling husband. He was doing something financial on the side. Something illegal enough that he'd kept a whole secret system to hide it. Something illegal enough to make him desperate if anyone found out. Which meant I could use it, not to threaten him back, but to completely destroy him. Because hurting Lena wasn't the worst mistake he ever made. Marrying into our family was. The next morning, sunlight spilled into the guest bedroom, but I barely felt its warmth. I'd slept maybe 3 hours, replaying every detail of yesterday. Mark's shock, his trembling hands, the confusion, the anger simmering beneath his voice like a pot left on high heat. I'd thrown him completely off balance. Good, but I still needed answers. I checked my phone. 2 texts from Mark, or rather, the version of him who still thought I was Sierra. 7:12 a.m. Good morning. Can we talk today? 7:46 a.m. I'm sorry if I was too emotional yesterday. I just need to understand what you want from me. I stared at the messages, my jaw clenching. He sounded soft, worried, but monsters often do. Just as I locked my phone, Sierra slowly opened the door and peeked in. "Morning," she whispered. Her voice was still hoarse from crying the night before, but her eyes looked clearer, more alive than I had seen them in days. "Morning," I said. "You sleep at all?" She shrugged. "Better than I have in weeks." That alone ignited something warm in my chest. I stood and gave her a tight hug. "You don't have to go back to him," I murmured. "I know." She stepped back. "But you do." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" She crossed her arms, nervous. "Anna, I've been thinking. If we want him to confess or slip up or show who he really is, he needs to think he still has me." I paused, letting that sink in. It was dangerous, risky, but she wasn't wrong. "He trusts Sierra," she continued. "He underestimates her. He thinks she's weak and broken and scared." "And I'm none of those things," I said flatly. "That's why you're the one who can pull this off." I breathed out slowly, weighing everything. "All right," I finally said. "I'll go." "But Anna," she added, grabbing my hand, "don't let him fool you. He can be charming when he wants to be. He knows how to talk his way out of anything." "Oh, I plan on letting him talk," I said. "In fact, I'm counting on it." I drove to Sierra's house at 9:12 a.m. Mark's truck was already in the driveway. The porch light was still on, odd for daytime, and a bike was leaning against the side of the house. One of the neighbors' kids, probably. They loved riding around, cutting across yards like tiny tornadoes. Normal suburban America. Fresh cut lawns, flags on porches, trash bins neatly lined up for pickup. And inside one of these houses, a man who bruised my sister was making himself breakfast like everything was fine. As I walked up the driveway, the front door swung open. Mark stood there, clean-shaven, gray t-shirt, sweatpants. He looked small. Not physically, he was still tall, broad, intimidating, but emotionally, like a kid afraid he'd been caught doing something wrong. "Anna." He caught himself. "Sierra." I stepped past him without speaking, letting my silence sting a little. The kitchen smelled like pancakes. The table was set for two. Cute, manipulative, predictable. He followed behind me, unsure, like I was a wild animal that might bite. "Thanks for coming," he said quietly. Saturday you said you wanted to talk." He swallowed. "I did." His hands fidgeted on the table. He licked his lips. His eyes darted to my face, searching, studying, still trying to read me the way he always read her. Good luck with that. Finally he spoke. "I've been thinking about everything. About us. About how I acted." His voice trembled. "I know I haven't been perfect. I know I've made mistakes. I want to fix things." I stared at him, expression blank. He continued. "I love you, Sierra, more than anything, and I never meant to hurt you. You know that, right?" My heart rate spiked. Not from fear, from fury. "You didn't mean to?" I asked softly. "No," he said quickly. "Of course not. You know how things get when we argue. We both say things, do things." "Did I hit you?" I asked. Mark looked stunned, like the question punched the air out of his lungs. "Sierra, come on. You know I'd never." "That's not what I asked." His jaw tightened, and for the first time I saw it, the flicker of the real him, the flash of anger, the entitlement, the irritation when control slipped from his fingers. "There were circumstances," he muttered. "You pushed my buttons. You know how you get. I told you to stop nagging, and you just—" I leaned back. There it was. The shift, the unraveling, the mask slipping inch by inch. "I'm willing to go to counseling," Mark said quickly, trying to recover. "Couples therapy. Whatever it takes. I just want my wife back." I let silence hang in the air, thick and choking. Then I said, "Okay, I'll stay." His shoulders dropped in relief. "Thank you. I promise." "But only," I interrupted, "if we start fresh." He blinked. Start fresh. Yes, I said calmly. And to do that, I need to know everything. He frowned. Everything. Everything you've done, I said, voice smooth as glass. Everything you've said. Everything you regret. Everything you think I should forgive you for. I smiled. And the best part is, I'm a very patient listener. Mark swallowed hard. Something in his expression shifted. Worried. Suspicious. Nervous. Good. He didn't know it yet. But today I was going to tear his whole world apart, one confession at a time. Mark's knee bounced under the table, a tiny tremor he couldn't hide. He looked like a man sitting under a heat lamp, waiting for the sweat to give him away. I don't know what you mean by everything, he said carefully. Yes, you do, I replied. The way his eyes flickered told me I'd hit the nerve I was aiming at. I folded my hands on the table, leaning in with a softness Sierra never had the confidence to use. You want to start fresh? Then let's wipe the slate clean. I want you to tell me all the things you've done that you think I should forgive you for. His Adam's apple bobbed. Sierra, people don't do that. Couples don't just list every mistake they've made. I tilted my head. Guilty couples don't, I said. His fingers froze. What's that supposed to mean? You tell me, I said. Silence fell like a brick between us. He stared at me, confused, threatened, suspicious, trying to figure out why Sierra suddenly grew a spine. Why I wasn't curling into myself. Why I wasn't scared. Why I wasn't apologizing. Why, for the first time in this marriage, the power wasn't in his hands. I watched him struggle to keep his cool. Sierra, he said slowly, you've been acting strange. Oh, you look at me differently. You stand differently. You talk differently. His gaze hardened. You're not fragile. You're not crying. You're not scared of me. I smiled, a slow, dangerous smile. When have I ever said I was scared of you? You don't have to say it, he snapped. I know when you're afraid. Interesting, because Sierra told me he only ever knew when she wasn't afraid. Maybe I changed, I said. Maybe you just never noticed who I really am. Maybe, he said, you're hiding something. He leaned back, and that's when I saw it, the shift from nervous to calculating, from confused to cautious, from guilty to strategic. This was the version of Mark that scared my sister. This was the version of him I came to destroy. He stood suddenly, pushing his chair back. Come with me, he said. To where? You want honesty? Fine. Let's talk somewhere private. I raised an eyebrow. This house is private. No, Sierra. Somewhere we can talk without interruptions. Somewhere we won't be overheard. Ah, there it was. He didn't trust the walls. He didn't trust the neighborhood. He didn't trust me. Let me grab my keys, he said. He walked down the hallway, but I stayed seated, listening, waiting. I heard drawers open. Not the junk drawer. Not the silverware drawer. The office drawer. The same one Sierra said he kept locked. The one where he hid bills, passwords, and things she didn't need to worry about. He was hiding something. I stood slowly and moved to the hallway, quiet on purpose. When I peered around the corner, I froze. He wasn't grabbing keys. He was holding his phone and a small black notebook. He opened the notebook, flipped through it fast, breath quickening. Then he did something that made my blood run cold. He pulled out his phone and started snapping pictures of the pages, like he needed a backup in case something went wrong. What's that? I said casually. He jumped so hard the notebook nearly slipped from his hands. Sierra, Jesus, he clutched it to his chest. Don't sneak up on me. I asked you a question. It's nothing, he said too quickly. Just work stuff. I crossed my arms. Let me see. No. The sharpness in his voice cut through the air. And for a second I saw it, the flash of true rage. The type that lived in clenched teeth and balled fists and bruises hidden with excuses. That old, familiar fury he used on my sister, the one she was conditioned to back down from. So I stepped closer, Let me see. His jaw tightened so hard I heard the grind. It's private, he said. Then why hide it? I'm not hiding anything, he snapped. Really? Then explain why you're taking pictures of it in a locked drawer you told Sierra to never open. He froze. His eyes flicked down the hallway toward the garage door. An exit, a route, a way to escape. But I blocked the path. He looked at me again, but this time not like I was Sierra. He looked at me like I was a stranger, a threat, a problem he couldn't predict. What's in the notebook, Mark? He swallowed. Don't do this, he whispered. Do what? This interrogation. You're not acting like yourself. I told you, I said softly. Maybe you just never knew me. The notebook shook in his hands. He stared at it, then at me, then back at it. His voice dropped to a level I'd never heard him use, low, shaky, unsure. If I show you this, he said, you can't take it the wrong way. The wrong way? Yes, because it's not what it looks like. That sentence never leads to good things. He opened the notebook, turned it toward me, and my throat tightened, because inside, written in small, neat handwriting, was things Sierra does that trigger me. Page after page, detailed, numbered, organized, like a manual on how to blame her for his anger. A list of excuses for every bruise he ever left. A script for manipulation. And at the bottom of one page something else was written. If it gets worse, I'll have to take permanent action. My pulse stopped. Permanent action? I lifted my eyes slowly. Mark, I whispered, what does that mean? But before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and all the color drained from his face. I watched the blood leave his skin, leaving him ghost pale. Who is it? I asked. He didn't speak, so I walked forward and snatched the phone from his hand. Before he could react, the screen was still lit. A text message from an unknown number. She knows you hurt her. She isn't alone. And we're coming. I stared at him. You called someone for help? No, he shouted. Then who the hell is warning you? Mark stepped backward until his back hit the wall. Someone else knew. Someone else was involved. And suddenly, this was no longer just about my sister and her abusive husband. This was bigger, much bigger. When I saw that message on Mark's phone, it felt like the air inside the hallway thickened. For a moment, neither of us breathed. His eyes kept darting from the phone to me, then to the notebook still clutched in my hand like a dirty secret. I spoke first. Who knows about this, Mark? He shook his head too fast. I don't know who sent that. I swear I don't. You're lying. I'm not. Then why do you look like you've seen a ghost? He dragged a palm down his face. Because I don't know what's going on. I don't know how someone found out about us. About you hurting her, I corrected. This isn't an us situation. It's a you situation. That's not fair, he snapped. You know relationships are complicated. They're not complicated, I said. You don't hit someone you love. You don't record triggers like excuses. And you sure as hell don't talk about permanent action. His face tightened. That phrase, I said slowly. Explain it. It wasn't what it sounded like. Explain it. He backed into the wall again, like he wanted it to swallow him. I wrote that when we were fighting a lot, he whispered. It just meant maybe we'd need time apart. A break. Something temporary. You wrote permanent action, not temporary break. I know. I know how it sounds. I was emotional. You wrote it neatly. You took your time on it. He clenched his jaw, and that's when another text pinged onto the screen. Unknown, we told her. She knows everything. You need to confess. Now. My stomach dropped. Someone had been watching him. Someone who knew Sierra, and someone who wanted him to crack. Mark grabbed the phone from me, violently, and shoved it into his pocket. We need to leave, he said. No. Yes. His voice was no longer shaky. It was firm, commanding. Whoever sent those messages is trying to ruin my life, and you're playing into it. You ruined your own life. That's not true, he snapped. I love you. I take care of you. I've always taken care of you. I've always protected you. I blinked slowly. From what? His eye twitched. For the first time, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't protecting Sierra from the world. He was protecting her from himself. And failing. He reached toward me, not to hit me, yet but to grab my arm. I stepped back. Don't touch me. Why are you acting like this? He asked, gripping the edge of the wall like he needed support. You're not Sierra. You're not. He froze. Then he whispered, Who are you? My pulse stopped. I kept my face neutral. I'm your wife. But he shook his head. No, you're not. Sierra doesn't talk like this. Sierra doesn't challenge me. Sierra doesn't look me in the eyes like she's not afraid. He stepped forward. You're not Sierra. I forced my voice steady. You're imagining things. No, he grabbed my wrist this time, too hard. You're not her. You can't be. Let go. Who are you? I twisted my wrist, slipped out of his grip, and stepped back. My name, I said quietly, is Anna. His entire face collapsed. He shook his head. He backed into the wall again. Then he whispered one sentence that told me he already knew everything. You're the twin. I didn't answer. He swallowed hard, then harder, then again. You switched places, he whispered. Did she tell you things? Did she lie to you? Everything she told me was true. That's not. She exaggerates, she twists. No, I cut in. She minimizes. She hides bruises. She apologizes for bleeding. She flinches every time someone closes a door too loudly. He blinked like I had stabbed him with each sentence. You hurt her, I said, and I'm here to break you for it. He stared at me, and then something dark settled in his eyes. A realization, a choice, a threat. If you're not Sierra, he whispered, then you don't live here. You don't belong here, and no one knows you're here. I didn't move. That means, he continued, I can deal with you without consequences. I didn't flinch. You think you're the first man to threaten me? I asked quietly. He stepped forward, but his phone buzzed again. He froze. Another message. He pulled the phone out with shaking fingers. Unknown. Open the front door. His eyes snapped to mine. What did you do? Nothing. Are you working with them? With who? He didn't answer. He walked past me, fast, heading to the living room. I followed, but kept distance. He reached the front door. His hand hovered over the lock. He opened it, slowly, and then he staggered backward, because 3 people were standing on the porch. Not cops, not neighbors. 3 strangers. 2 men, 1 woman, all wearing plain dark clothing. The woman stepped forward. Soft voice, calm tone, no smile. Mark Whitman. He didn't speak. Good, she said. We need to talk. Who are you? He asked. We're the ones trying to keep your wife alive. I froze. Mark froze. The woman's eyes flicked to me. You must be the twin, she said. We've heard about you. Who are you? I asked. We're people Sierra talked to online, she said. A support group. Survivors. And we've been monitoring him for months. Everything inside me went cold. What? She reached out last year, the woman said. She was frightened. She sent us voice notes, pictures of bruises, journal entries. She told us everything. Mark's face went white. She also told us, the woman continued, that if anything ever happened to her, it would be because of him. Mark exploded. That's not true. She lied. She never told anyone. She told us plenty, the woman said calmly, including the fact that she kept backups of everything you ever did. My heart slammed. She told us to intervene, the woman said softly, if she ever stopped responding. My breath caught. How long has she been quiet? I asked. 6 days. I froze. 6. I whispered. No. No, she's safe. She's at my place. She's alive. The woman's shoulders dropped in relief. Thank God. But Mark stepped forward fast. What backups? He demanded. What did she save? Where is it? The taller man stepped in front of him. Sit down. Don't tell me what to. The man pulled something from his pocket. Not a weapon. A USB drive. We have enough to bury you, he said quietly. Confessions. Pictures. Messages. Audio. Video. My chest tightened. Video. I whispered. The woman nodded. She recorded him, she said softly. Several times. Mark let out a sound I've never heard from another human being. A strangled, choked mix between a gasp and a growl. That's illegal, he shouted. So is assault, she replied. He stumbled backward, gripping the wall. No, he whispered. No, this isn't happening. It is, the woman said. What do you want? He demanded. Money? A confession? What? She looked at me, then back at him. We want the truth, she said, and we want Sierra safe. Mark shook his head violently. I never. She lied. She twisted. She wanted to hurt me. She wanted to survive you, the woman said. Mark opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again, breath shaking. I didn't mean to hurt her, he whispered. You meant enough, I said, and that's what matters. The man stepped forward. Mark, listen carefully. You have 2 options. Mark raised his head. 1, the man said. You confess everything on video, every instance of abuse, every threat, every bruise, every lie. Mark's jaw clenched. Or 2, the man continued, we send all the evidence straight to the police and your employer. Mark's face twisted. You're blackmailing me, he said. No, the man said. We're giving you a chance. Mark shook. He looked at me, then at the strangers, then at the notebook, then at the door, and for a brief moment, I thought he might run, but he didn't. His knees buckled, and he sank onto the couch. Fine, he whispered. I'll confess. They set up a phone on a tripod. The woman pressed record. Mark stared into the camera like a man staring down his own grave. And then he started talking. For the first time ever, he told the truth. He talked about the first time he shoved her, the first time he slapped her, the first time he scared her into silence, the first time he blamed her for his anger, the first time he threatened to end it if she ever told anyone. He talked for 30 minutes straight. By the 10th minute, he was crying. By the 20th, he was shaking. By the 30th, he was destroyed. When he finished, he covered his face with both hands and sobbed. The woman stopped recording. She turned to me. It's done, she said softly. But something felt wrong. Too wrong. Too easy. I looked at the strangers, then at Mark, then back at the woman. Why now? I asked. Why intervene today? Because we finally got a message, the woman said. What message? She pulled out her phone, opened the last text, and showed me. It was from Sierra's number, a scheduled text, sent automatically. If you're reading this, he knows. Please send help. My throat went tight. My vision blurred. I had to sit down. Sierra scheduled it. She planned it. She expected things to get worse. And she prepared for it. The woman put a hand on my shoulder. She's safe now, she said. Especially with you. I nodded slowly, then stood. I looked at Mark, broken, defeated, exposed. I walked toward him. He lifted his eyes, and I said the last words he would ever hear from me. She deserved better, but I guess you already know that. He didn't respond. He didn't have to. The strangers left. I left, and when I got back home, Sierra ran to me the second I opened the door. We held each other. She cried into my shoulder. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't want you to see how bad it got. It's over, I told her. He confessed. Everything. She pulled back. What happens now? Whatever you want, I said. You're free. She nodded. And for the first time in years, she believed it.